helpless, ashamed, broken. Don't look at me like that. The girl pressed her back harder against the cottonwood tree, like bark might swallow her whole. Her dress was torn at the shoulder, stained with dust and blood. One knee split open where she had fallen hard on dry ground that gave no mercy. Elias Boone didn't move. He just stood there in the late summer light, hat low, shadow cutting across his face, eyes fixed on her like a man measuring something he hadn't decided on yet. Behind him, his horse breathed slow and steady. Claire's fingers clawed at her own arms, trying to hold what little dignity she had left. She had seen that look before, in a cell that smelled like sweat and whiskey, in a room where doors locked from the outside, men who looked at her like she wasn't a person anymore, like she was something to be priced, something already lost, like by morning she might be traded off and never hear her own name again. "Please," she whispered, voice cracking. "Don't." Elias still didn't step closer. He reached up, slow, unbuttoned his outer shirt and let it fall to the ground in front of her. Then he turned his head away. Not fully. "Just enough. I ain't looking at you that way," he said, quiet, rough, like gravel under a boot. "I'm looking at that leg. You won't make another mile on it." Claire didn't move, didn't trust it, couldn't. Then came the sound that broke whatever thin thread of calm was left. Hoofbeats. Fast. Too many. Her breath hitched, panic flooding in so hard it made her dizzy. "They're coming," she said, shaking now. Real fear, not the quiet kind. "They'll say I stole. They'll say anything. Just don't give me back." Elias's eyes shifted, finally leaving her, scanning the open land behind him. 3 riders, maybe less than a minute out. He looked back at her, this time different. Not measuring, deciding. He stepped forward, grabbed her under the arms, lifted her like she weighed nothing, and set her up on his horse. She flinched, expecting rough hands, but they were steady, careful. Too careful for a man about to do something bad. He swung up behind her, turned the horse, and rode off the trail into tall grass just as the riders crested the rise. Moments later, voices called out. A woman, running. Elias answered calm, like nothing had changed. Didn't see a soul. The riders didn't sound convinced, and neither was Clara, because as the horse carried them deeper into the empty land, one question stayed locked in her chest. Had she just escaped one kind of hell or ridden straight into another? The horse didn't slow down until the voices were gone. Elias rode hard for a stretch, then eased the reins, guiding them off the main trail into a narrow cut of dry grass and scattered brush. He finally stopped near an old lean shed half falling apart, the kind no one bothered to claim anymore. He helped Clara down. Careful again. She pulled away the second her feet touched the ground, breathing fast, eyes locked on him like he might change any second. Elias didn't take it personal. He'd seen that look before, not from women like her, from men who came back from war, bad winters, and worse mistakes. He handed her a small canteen. "Drink slow," he said. "Just water." Clara hesitated, then took it. Hands shaking so bad some spilled down her chin. She didn't care, didn't even wipe it. After a moment, Elias crouched a few feet away, keeping distance, eyes on her leg. "Let me see it," he said. She froze, not from pain, from memory. "Please," he added, quieter this time. She let him look. The wound was ugly, dirt packed deep, swelling already starting. Elias shook his head once. "You keep running on that. You won't be running nowhere tomorrow." Silence stretched. Then Clara spoke, voice low, like she was afraid even the wind might carry it. "They said I owed them." Elias didn't react, just listened. "For the room, for the doctor, for burying my husband." Her eyes dropped. "I signed because I thought debt was still better than begging." She swallowed hard. "They locked me up first." A pause. Said it was only until the papers were settled. Another pause. Then one woman was gone by morning. Her voice thinned. "After that, nah. I understood what kind of place it was." Elias leaned back slightly, resting his arms on his knees, still listening. "They keep women working off debt," she said. First the cell, then the saloon, then whatever man pays to keep them there longer. She reached slowly into the torn lining of her dress and pulled out a small folded paper. Dirty, creased. I took this when he wasn't looking. Elias took it, unfolding it carefully. Initials. Dates. Amounts owed. A few marks beside that. Not proper names. Just enough to keep track of who still belonged to the debt. His jaw tightened just a little. That was real. Too real to be a story. They're looking for me because of that, Clara said. If they get it back, I disappear like the others. Elias looked up at her, really looked this time. Not like before. Not like a man judging. Like a man weighing truth against a lifetime of things he wished he'd never learned about men. He'd heard things. Whispers in town. Women gone. No one asking too loud. And he'd spent too many years knowing what decent men looked like when they chose not to ask. He folded the paper once, slow, then handed it back. All right, he said. That was it. No speech, no promise, just that one word. But something shifted. Clara felt it. Then Elias stood up, glanced toward the distant road, and reached for his rifle. Problem is, he muttered almost to himself, men like that don't stop hunting. And then he added, quieter, and they don't hunt alone. From somewhere beyond the ridge, faint but coming fast again, hoofbeat. Closer this time. So the question wasn't whether they would find them. It was how many would be waiting when they did. The hoofbeats didn't fade this time. They got louder. Closer. Elias didn't waste a second. He grabbed the reins, pulled Clara up again, and swung into the saddle behind her in one clean motion. Hold on, he said. That was all. No panic in his voice. That scared her more than shouting would have. They moved fast through the brush, not back to the main trail, but cutting across rough ground only someone who knew the land would risk. Branches scraped. Dust kicked up. Clara held tight without thinking now. Not because she trusted him fully, because falling meant being caught. And being caught meant something worse than death. A shot cracked behind them. They're not guessing anymore, Elias said. He leaned low, guiding the horse toward a narrow dip in the land, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. They dropped into it, hidden for a moment. Then he pulled the horse to a stop behind a cluster of low rocks. Down, he said. Clara slid off, legs weak, breath uneven. Elias didn't wait. He moved quick, checking his rifle, eyes scanning the ridge. 3 riders came into view. Deputy Cole in front. Even from a distance, there was no mistaking him. Elias exhaled slow. Stay low, he said. This time, Clara didn't argue, didn't question. She dropped behind the rocks, gripping the dirt. Her heart hammered so loud she thought they might hear it. The riders slowed, looking, listening. One of them pointed. Too late to hide now. Elias stepped out just enough, raised the rifle, and fired once. The shot cracked close enough to spook the lead horse, and that was all he needed. The animal reared, throwing the line into a second of chaos. Move, Elias said. They ran, not far, just enough to reach a narrow path that twisted through dry ground and low brush. Too tight for fast riding. The horse pushed through, breathing hard. Behind them, the riders regrouped. Minutes later, they broke out near a worn trail leading toward Mora Valley. Elias slowed at last. Clara turned slightly, looking back at him. You could have left me, she said quietly. Elias shrugged once. Could have, he said. He didn't explain. Didn't need to. That answer told her everything. They rode on in silence for a while. The sun dipped lower, heat easing just a little. Elias glanced ahead, then off to the side, thinking. They'll circle wide, he said. Cut us off near town or the valley. A pause, which means we stop running soon. Clara frowned slightly. Then what? Elias didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on the horizon. We make them wish they hadn't started this. That was the first time she heard something like steel in his voice. Not anger. Something colder, more certain. And that was the moment Clara realized something important. She hadn't run into another man hunting her. She'd run into a man who knew how to hunt back. Now, before we go further, if you're still here, go ahead and subscribe. And while you're here, tell me where you're listening from tonight, because what Elias chose next was the kind of thing that could save a life or bury his own. Elias didn't ride into Mora Valley like a man hiding. He rode in like a man who already made up his mind. They stopped at a small adobe house near the edge of the valley, a place tucked away from the main road. An older woman stepped out when she heard the horse. Beatriz Salazar. She took one look at Clara, then at Elias, and didn't ask foolish questions. She just said, "Bring her inside." Clara sat at a wooden table while Beatriz cleaned her wound proper this time. Hot water, clean cloth, no rush. For the first time, Clara let her shoulders drop. Just a little. Elias stood by the door, watching the road, thinking. He pulled out the paper Clara had taken, then the small list from Cole. Beatrice glanced at them, her face tightening. "I've seen marks like these before," she said quietly. "Women come through with debt on paper and fear on their faces." She looked at Clara, then back at Elias, and after a while, nobody asks where they went. Clara looked up. "You knew?" Beatrice didn't flinch. "I suspected," she said. "Out here, folks learn when to speak and when to stay alive." Elias folded the papers again. "That's not enough," he said. Beatrice nodded. "No, not for a man wearing a badge." Silence filled the room. Then Clara spoke, slower now, more steady than before. "There's a book," she said, "in the back room, near the jail." Elias looked at her. "What kind of book?" "The one they don't show in daylight," she said. "Initials, money owed, notes on where the women were kept." Elias let out a breath, long and low. He didn't like going back. Didn't like walking into a place where men were already waiting for him. But running hadn't worked, and it wouldn't work tomorrow either. Beatrice stepped closer. "Tonight's your only chance," she said. "Supply wagons came in. Half the town will be drinking by dark." Clara shook her head. "They'll be watching for him. Then they won't be watching for you," Beatrice replied. Elias looked between them. Then he nodded once. Night came fast. The three of them moved quietly along the edge of town. Clara led the way once they got close. Her steps slowed near the jail. Her breathing changed. Memories creeping in, Elias noticed, but didn't say a word. He just stayed close enough, not touching, just there. They slipped around back. The door was where Clara said it would be. Old, but not as loose as she remembered. Elias worked at it in the dark, slow and patient, while Clara kept watch. A pair of voices drifted from the front of the building, then faded again toward the saloon. Only then did the latch give. Inside, it smelled like wood, dust, and old fear. Clara pointed toward a shelf behind a stack of ledgers. Elias found the book there, thicker than the rest. He opened it. Initials, dates, amounts, notes in a hand too steady to deny. Too much to explain away. Then a voice cut through the dark. "That's far enough." Deputy Cole stepped into the doorway, gun raised. Smile thin and ugly. Elias didn't turn right away, he just closed the book slowly. Then he turned. Book still in his hand, Cole stood there, gun steady, like he had all the time in the world. "Should have kept riding," Cole said. Elias didn't answer, didn't argue. Some men talk when they're afraid. Some men go quiet when they've already made peace with what comes next. Claire stood behind him, frozen for a second. Then something changed in her. She stepped out just enough to be seen. Cole's eyes flicked to her. That was all it took. Elias moved. Fast. Not young fast. Old fast. The kind built from years of knowing exactly when to act. The gun fired once, loud in the small space. Wood splintered, but the shot went wide. Elias hit Cole hard, driving him into the doorframe. The gun dropped. Clara kicked it away without thinking, just action. Moments later, it was over. Cole on the ground, breathing, but done. Elias stood there, chest rising slow, not celebrating, not proud, just finished. They didn't run blind after that. They took the book straight back to Beatrice. Before sunrise, 2 more people saw it. One was a teamster who had hauled women under sealed orders and hated himself for it. The other was a widow who recognized the initials of her own sister. By morning, they brought the book into town with witnesses, not rumors. Sheriff Reddick tried to laugh it off at first. Then he tried anger. Then he reached for the kind of voice men use when they've ruled too long and think fear still works. But that morning, fear had finally run out before the truth did. Too many dates matched. Too many women had vanished the same way. Too many people had spent too many years pretending not to see. Men who once kept their heads down started speaking. Women stepped forward. And when the dust settled, a badge didn't mean what it used to. Some men were taken away. Some never wore a badge again. And some people in that town had to live with the fact they knew and did nothing. Reddick kept talking until nobody listened anymore, just standing there in daylight with everybody finally seeing him plain. Time passed. Not fast, but steady. Claire stayed. Not because she had nowhere to go, but because for the first time in a long while she got to choose. Elias never pushed, never claimed anything that wasn't given freely. He just fixed the fence, fed the horses, and made space. Months later, when the heat of summer softened into something kinder, she stood beside him by that same field, and when he looked at her this time, she didn't look away. That's how a man ends up with a wife. Not by taking, not by forcing, but by standing firm long enough for the right thing to grow. So let me ask you, if you were in his place, would you ride away and stay safe, or stand your ground and risk it all for someone who needed it? And if you were in her place, would you keep running, or trust one person again, even after everything? Stories like this remind us of something simple. The world doesn't change all at once. It changes the moment one person decides not to look away. If this story stayed with you, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Tell me this, what time is it where you are right now? And where are you listening from? I read every one of them. Now, one small thing before we close. This story was gathered and retold, with a few details shaped to bring out its lesson, its heart, and its meaning. The visuals are AI-assisted, just to help the story land a little deeper, but if it stayed with you, leave me a comment back. That's how I know which stories are worth bringing back to this fire.